By the way, there's a growing chorus. I think a third of the Republicans in the Senate have said this out loud. No recess, pass the Save America Act. That's what our voters expect us to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So Senate Majority Leader Senator John Thune, the main RINO in the Senate, is facing a revolt from Senate Republicans because, for one, he's delaying passing the Save America Act, and people are pretty upset. And two, he was caught playing both sides, where in public he was saying something, pretending as if he's for the Save America Act, but in private he's saying and doing something completely different, which is the reason why President Trump just came out and said if John Thune cannot pass this bill, he may just replace him as Senate Majority Leader. And these are the 12 Republicans who have revolted against John Thune, going on vacation for about 37 days. And here we have a video of John Thune being asked about these 12 Republicans who oppose going on recess so the Senate can stick around and pass this bill, and take a look at his response. Watch this.
Leader Thune, are you still planning to proceed with the August recess now that about 12 of your Republican colleagues are calling to stay behind on the recess and work through to get the Save America Act passed?
I'm for anything that we can do to get the Save America Act passed. What I always ask, the question I always ask is, what is your picture of victory? What is the end game here? If, in fact, staying here for the month of August means that we assume at some point there will be 10 Democrats to cross over and vote for the Save America Act, I think it would stay here till Christmas. That's not going to happen. And the other thing I would say about that is that there are going to be 50 votes to get rid of the legislative filibuster. So if budget reconciliation is a path forward, if we conclude that there's actually a chance to get an outcome or a result there, I'm open to do it. And I think all of our colleagues would be open to staying around here if that were true. But I don't think, having a Congress sitting around here for the month of August in forum halls or having to vote on Democrat amendments is probably a good use of anybody's time. So we will see and see where the conversation goes.
So there's a few things that we need to break down here in regards to John Thune's narrative when it comes to the Save America Act, because he's saying that he's willing to do whatever it takes to pass this bill, when we know that is false, because the one thing that John Thune can do to pass this bill is to nuke the filibuster, and John Thune isn't for that. He's not willing to do that. And the second thing, John Thune, he mentioned that reconciliation, if it's a path forward, he's willing to do that. But the thing is, there is a bill sitting in the Senate right now, a reconciliation bill where John Thune can get the Save America Act passed. And John Thune is against this, and I'm going to show you why, because here there was a meeting between John Thune and the White House where John Thune met with Budget Chief Russ Vought and Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair. And people familiar with the meeting, what they said is that John Thune is playing both sides, because in public, John Thune is saying that he's for the Save America Act. But in that meeting, what he said, he's cautioning that the Save America Act could open a can of worms, said that doing so, passing that bill, the Save America Act using reconciliation, would involve more committees and likely give Democrats more chances to force votes at a lower simple majority threshold. Basically, what John Thune is saying is that passing the Save America Act using reconciliation, which will only require a simple majority from Republicans, will somehow give Democrats an advantage for future bills, which doesn't make sense at all, which is the reason why President Trump is saying that if John Thune cannot get this bill passed, he may not be the person for the job. And here's President Trump on that. Watch this.
And do you think Senate Majority Leader John Thune, after the comments you heard regarding Save America and some other stuff, do you think he's still the man for the job?
Well, we're going to find out, and I'll let you know.
So what I just got from that response is that President Trump is feeling how most of us are feeling in regards to John Thune and the Save America Act, because John Thune has been giving us excuses after excuses. In public, he's saying one thing, but in private, he's saying and doing something completely different, which tells a lot of us that John Thune, he's not the person for the job. He's not the man for the job. And here we have another video of President Trump being asked about all the excuses that John Thune has been given. And President Trump is demanding that John Thune get this done once and for all. Watch this.
What's your reaction to him saying that there's no evident path to success on killing the filibuster or passing the Save America Act?
Well, that's too bad for him. I mean, that's too bad for him and too bad for the Republican Party.
Do you believe that?
He's got the votes. He should get it done. He should be able to get it done.
Mr. President.
I agree with President Trump. John Thune has the votes. There are 53 Senate Republicans in the Senate right now. You cannot tell me that John Thune isn't able to get 51 of those senators to pass a bill that's largely popular with the American people. At first, John Thune was telling us that he's going to try to work with Democrats. Democrats didn't want to help out and pass this bill. Then he told us that the filibuster isn't something that he has the votes for, that maybe reconciliation would work. And now he's saying that reconciliation may not work because somehow it's going to give Democrats an advantage, or that they don't have the votes for reconciliation. This just does not make sense to me at all. And here we have Anna Paulina Luna calling out John Thune for slow walking this bill and being a hypocrite. Watch this.
What do you think John Thune is going to do with the Save America Act once it gets to the Senate?
Well, there's certain things that the House is trying to do specifically with monetary incentivizing and reconciliation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's an enforcement clause. And I really think that John Thune is hiding behind the filibuster because he doesn't want to put, and this is what I've heard directly, he doesn't want to put his members in a tough position right before a midterm with a tough vote. So that should just go to show how out of touch the Senate is, because voter ID is literally a 90-10 issue. And I don't really think that the Senate, aside from a few, really represents what the interests of the American people are.
If John Thune is worried about the midterms, the elections coming up, the best way to tell voters to not vote for you is by not passing something that's largely popular with the American people. That is the Save America Act, which has voter ID. And voter ID, we know that it polls about 70 to 80% of Americans want this bill passed.
If we don't pass it, the politics are going to be really bad for us at the ballot box in the midterm election. I fully agree with you, but the pathway forward, and it's this reconciliation bill that the House passed over to the Senate. We need to pass it right now before we take a recess and get the reconciliation bill passed to fund the military, pass the Save America Act, voter ID in our elections. And if we do that, we'll win big in the midterm election on November 3rd.
And here we have another RINO, John Cornyn, pretty much saying that the Save America Act will not be passed before the recess. This guy, he just needs to be out of Congress. Watch this video.
I don't understand the rationale. I think it's basically we're over-promising and we're not going to be able to deliver on that promise because we don't have the votes to pass it, no matter how long we stay, and we're not going to change the filibuster. So, but somehow the president's convinced that if he presses hard enough that we'll come around, and but I just don't think that's likely to happen.
Is he putting Thune in an impossible position here?
Well, I think, I wouldn't say impossible. They'll figure it out, but it's a very difficult position.
Here's something that John Cornyn needs to understand. President Trump isn't the only one that's pushing for this bill. The American people are pushing for this bill. So don't make it seem like this is a game between politicians. President Trump was elected to get things done for the American people, just like you as a senator and John Thune. And you guys are failing to recognize that. President Trump isn't the only one that wants this bill. The American people are demanding this bill, and you guys are failing. But at least we have someone in Washington that's actually listening to the people, which is Senator Mike Lee from Utah, pretty much saying that this issue is not going to go away. So John Thune, it's in his best interest to actually pass this bill. Listen to this.
Mr. President, this issue isn't going away. The Save America Act isn't going away. Voter ID requirement demands are not going away. I will be back day after day, week after week, until this passes. Because the American people deserve to go to bed every night knowing that their government is run by people they themselves elected, not foreign nationals. They don't want a government that has been chosen with significant foreign influence in our elections.
Why can we not have more senators like Senator Mike Lee from Utah, senators that actually fight for the American people? Because if you look what's going on with the Democrat Party and those candidates that they're electing, there are a whole bunch of socialist, communist candidates that want to destroy this country. So the only way to save this country is by prioritizing America, understanding what the voters want, what the voters are demanding, so you can actually provide that to the voters and save the country in the meantime. And that brings us to the end of this video. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think John Thune should be replaced, or do you think he should remain in place? Also, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.